Hello, for Eagle Communications, I'm Dennis Weiss. Welcome to our town. We have our favorite Solomon gorilla, Brad Homman over here. He always wears red shirt. That's your latent advertising.
Well, at least to this meeting I do. I don't,
Yes.
not intentionally.
But here, you're here on behalf of Dickinson County, where you're the administrator.
I am.
Yes, and it's that time of year. All of government, local government, has lived through the budget process, theoretically.
We have.
And gosh, there's a lot of moving targets in our neck of the woods. A lot of work to do. I thought it'd be a great time just to discuss some of the things of importance with Dickinson County, how it went this year, what the people at home should know about the budgeting process, and the reality of where our dollars are spent. So I always frame it, we all hate taxes, but we love services and how we make that work.
You said a mouthful, yeah. And that's really how we applied things this year. This is, having been county administrator for 10 years now, this has been by far the toughest budget year that I've been involved in. It seems like it gets a little bit tougher every year. And what it comes down to is services versus the cost, the cost being taxes. This year, as many have heard, that we had to increase our budget considerably for a couple reasons, but for the most part, it was because of services. And through a very extensive budget process with the county commissioners, they went through things very diligently and with a fine-tooth comb, and you know, none of us like to raise taxes. We pay taxes too, contrary to what some people may forget.
a hidden secret, right?
Yeah. So I certainly don't want my taxes going up any more than anybody else does. But what it really came down to this year, Dennis, is it was about services.
Yeah, you know, when I think of Dickinson County, I don't know whether it's a blessing or a curse, but I've been around county government a long time, much like you. So I have exposure to the inner workings of tax, appraisal, all of those things in the software business. You have to know that stuff to do that job, and I did that job. So you think about a county like us, and the first thing you always think about is road and bridge, because that's the big one. We have a lot of roads in Dickinson County, and because of our ag economy, our rural roads are vital to the economy of Dickinson County, and they simply have to be maintained. A lot of money.
Yeah, you and I talked last time that we had this little filming, and most people take for granted, I included, every time I drive down the road, the quality of roads that we drive on in our county, whether they're pavement or gravel. You know, we're a township county. We've got well over 1,600 miles of roads in Dickinson County. Of that, the majority of which townships maintain. Right. But the county's responsible for 100 mile of gravel and 200 mile of paved road. That's a lot of road for a county our size, but more importantly and more expensively is the 300 bridges we have, many of which were built in the turn of the century, now are all coming to, for a couple of reasons they're critical, but are all coming to age about the same time. And the bigger factor is nobody's driving the vehicles they did when they were built for the early 1900s. There's not a farmer out there that's hauling 100 or 200 bushel of wheat to the elevator. Yeah. It's, you know, and so our bridges just won't handle those loads, and it's worn them out. And the cost of bridges in the last 10 years since I've been in this have gone through the roof, much like the cost of pavement and everything else. And it's things that are out of our control.
I don't know if a Ross Perot chart would be helpful, but we should try it someday because of the bridge cost. I think that it's an easy chart. There's only one number on it. So, you know, numbers never work on TV and they never work on radio, but lines do. That would be an astounding chart. Let me take a run at that, and we'll just have a conversation. I've heard many, many times in Kansas since I moved here and read many signs on small towns that says, welcome to historical Abilene, welcome to historical name, insert your name of town here. It could well be said, every time you cross a bridge in Kansas, you could say, welcome to historical bridge number 1192, because almost all of them of each size classification were built at the same time, and that's when we built roads in Kansas, and there were homesteaders everywhere. And then we slowly improved our infrastructure, but we have scads of old structure in Kansas.
Yes, we do. And that brings up another point, is to us, a bridge and a structure are two different things in size and nature. Right. And when I mentioned 300 bridges, that didn't include the structures. And we have thousands of structures. So many of those were designed for horse and buggy or cart. And we've got a lot of bridges that are low weight limits that were designed for Model A, Model T eras that just don't handle the weight of today. So we have to replace them. And I have no idea what it cost to replace them back then, but a small bridge nowadays that we build ourselves is minimum $60,000 to $80,000. If you look at a larger concrete bridge that crosses a span of any length at all, we're talking $1 million plus. Yeah. And that's dollars it takes a lot of years to build up and have in your reserves to be able to afford that.
You'll probably know, but I hope I'm not putting you on the spot. A couple of major bridge projects in this year and last year for Dickinson County. How much money did we spend?
We've got a bridge project going on at 659 1900 Avenue as we speak. It's on the tail end of that project. Hope to have the road back open by the end of this month. That project alone was about $800,000. It's the old Peterson Road. And it's a concrete structure. We replaced one earlier this year over by Solomon on 040. It's a smaller bridge, steel span bridge that our crews did ourselves, about $140,000. That's just the two that we've done this summer.
Yeah, well, they're right at $1 million.
Right at $1 million,
yeah.
You bet.
So, and that takes a mill or two to get in Dickinson County.
It takes a few mills.
Yeah. People don't understand mill, and so I try never to use it as an explanation. It takes a lot of dollars. It takes $1 million out of people's pockets, depending on what you own, what the mill is.
And it takes a while to build up those coffers so you can afford to do that.
Yeah. I looked pretty closely at your road and bridge work this year, both as I drove around the county and as I looked at your budget. And again, Dickinson County will always face this challenge, because however much we've done now, we have that in front of us again and again. The question is, can we see that as a benefit of that we have those roads to drive on and those bridges and structures that we can cross, which means our farmers are not going 30 miles out of their way, and oh, by the way, that puts me closer to Marion than it does Abilene. That's a big issue in hauling grain to market. How far is it to where I dump it?
Yeah, and that's just one facet of society. You've got all other retail, and nowadays with the internet, people do a lot of internet business from home, and being able to get those commodities delivered to them, or in small business, get those commodities from them out, is critical to our economic development, our society. So it's truly something you take for granted to be able to get in a vehicle and drive from here to Chapman or here to Solomon on a safe road that's not rough, that doesn't tear our front end up, and cross who knows how many bridges from point A to point B that don't cave in, and you can rest assured that it's safe for your family to cross that. But it all comes at a price, and to me that it comes down to a quality of life issue.
I know Old 40 is not your road.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I thought I knew Old 40 was not your road.
Yes.
But what I was going to say is I see your crews out there working it all the time. And I see the sign right at the edge of town that said, progress of your tax dollars at work. It is so necessary to communicate with people about these things so they can relate it to what they see. Old 40 will always be more narrow and more dangerous than we'd like, but it's been greatly improved.
It has.
And the slope off of the road has improved and the width of the road's improved, the surface of the road is improved, and I'll bet it wasn't cheap.
It wasn't. You know, several years ago, we applied for a safety grant through KDOT with federal highway funds for Old 40. Old 40 was designed for Model A's and Model T's, and in the early 60s, it was given to counties. It used to be a U.S. highway. It was transferred over to the counties, and since then, we've owned it and maintained it. The width of that road makes it very dangerous, and we were able to go back several years ago and document over the last 10 years or so a substantial number of accidents that had occurred due to the width issues on that road. We put that on paper, and we were able to apply for and obtain a healthy grant to what was called a safety edge grant. It was the first of its kind in Kansas. We widened the road by 18 inches on both sides, roughly 3 feet wide, by putting that edge and widening the road. And then on the part you just mentioned, from here to Detroit, Abilene to Detroit, we just overlaid that this year using the sales tax dollars, not property tax dollars. Now that that is one surface all the way across, it's a much smoother, much nicer driving surface roadway, and our intent is to do that in the next 2 to 3 years clear across the county as money is available. But that increases the safety factor exponentially.
I hesitate to say this on the air, but I'm not going to hesitate very long. So we would all wish that our phone wouldn't ring when we're driving down 040, or wish that that email doesn't appear on our phone as we're driving down the road. But the reality of it is, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's picked up the phone and talked going down that road. The safety margin on those very narrow and very steep roads compared to a wider and flatter road is huge. And I would say that the investment, not only for driving, but as you said, the next 10 years of maybe somebody not running off that road and into that old concrete bridge is a big thing.
It'll be very interesting to look at it a couple of years down the road and then compare that time-wise to see hopefully what the lack of accidents are. But you know, Dennis, we've had more positive comments after that safety edge project and widening that road out, that and putting stripes on the roads than anything else I think we've done for a number of years. So.
Well, you talked about sales tax, and I want to pivot to that. But before I leave, I want to give your team a compliment on camera. Our company works with a lot of road and bridge departments all over the place on our underground projects or our build projects. It has always been such a pleasure here in this county to work with ours. Not only are they kind, but they're professional just to the nth degree. And you can be both. It's possible to be both.
Yeah.
And they do great work. They will listen, they will think, and help you make a good decision about what we do to not only protect our assets in the ground, but protect the integrity of the road once we're done.
Yeah, you know, the message I get across to our people that I promote is we're all in this thing together. And if you're doing things and putting fiber in the ground or upgrading your system, that's because things are good economically for all of us.
Right.
And we all win together, we fail together. But at the same time, customer service, some people may only deal with the county one time in their life, or it may just be when they go to get their tags or driver's license. We try to make that a positive experience with the staff and contractors like Eagle and the other ones. There's certain things we require, but you guys understand why we require it. And it's a much better experience on both sides if we work together. So
I just want to say to people who don't do this so they can have a sense of understanding. It's not true everywhere. There isn't always that kind and professional relationship. I walked in a county courthouse not long ago and went to office holders that I know, and I said, we're investing a couple $1 million in your county, and if it were not so needed, I would walk away because of the treatment we have received from that process. It just screams, we don't want your business. We just don't want your business. So we're so blessed here in Dickinson County to have Martin to work with and his people and staff at the courthouse. It's always been a great thing.
I try to remind the staff and my staff that, we work for somebody. In our case, we work for the public, and the people you're dealing with are the people we serve, and not to forget that. So.
Okay, sales tax.
Sales tax.
Good news.
Yes, yes.
Looks good.
Yeah, and the sign that you mentioned, it's out there. It's that's an idea that we came up with. We wanted, last year we went out, myself and the commissioners, we went out and went to about 20 different locations around the county, senior centers and civic organizations, and we expressed to them why we need additional funding for roads and bridges.
Yeah.
And they trusted us. They passed the sales tax initiative to get us a half-cent sales tax. That money has started coming in April this year. We're getting about $98,000 a month, which is right at projected what we thought it would be. And we've borrowed against our own selves a little bit to do this section of Old 40, this 7 miles. But that is the money that's coming in on sales tax is paying for that stretch of road, or has paid for it. And we thought, we need to let people know that, because we don't, know how else to communicate. So we had a couple signs made that say, "This is your sales tax at work." And we've had a lot of good comments about that too, so people know that when they drive on that road, as I did the first time, I said, "Man, this is really smooth." You notice rough, you notice smooth, and if they, well, at least they know that the money that they entrusted us to collect, that they're paying, is going for something they can see and use. So,
as far as taxes go, we've both said out loud, each our own opinion. Nobody likes taxes, including us, but we respect when they're well handled. Sales tax is something that's it is a choice. You can buy it, or you can drive someplace else and buy it, but it's a choice. It's a consumer tax. It's also an area where I want to say on camera with you, and I hope you don't slap me, because if you did, I'd break, I'm pretty sure. Dickinson County has a tremendous opportunity to grow the total of our sales tax without incurring extra percentage of sales tax, and we can do that by growing our economy. We have opportunity everywhere to do that, I believe.
I agree, and as you well know, we've been a part of and helped promote the new Economic Development Corporation,
right,
where we've got a really good bunch of people. We've hired a good, very qualified director, and I just came from a lunch meeting with her and another city official in one of our cities, talking about just exactly that. How can we really get a shot in the arm, get going on retail along the interstate, and take advantage of some of those people that are passing through from out of town, out of state, and spending their tax dollars elsewhere.
I think there's been a lot of movement in the circles, Brad, this year, different circles, in business circles, in quasi-governmental, like Chamber of Commerce. We're not a unit of government. We represent our members, but people kind of see you as a quasi-governmental agency. But I think there's been real progress in the last couple of years of people understanding that growth is a choice, and the other side of that choice is decay. There's no standing still in business or as a community. Preservation can only be accomplished by growth, and many people do not have the opportunities we do. And we have a lot of good things that can happen right here in Abilene and around us in Dickinson County.
We're very fortunate. We're one of only, I believe, 4 or 5 counties in the state of Kansas that has sustained our population.
Population growth.
That says something.
Right.
Our assessed valuation across the board from last year to this year has increased. That's not our taxes, that's our assessed valuation.
6 million?
Roughly 6 million. That's a lot of homes, that's a lot of growth.
That's a lot of good news.
And we're, again, one of the few counties in the state that can say that. You get out in the western half of the state, they're lucky to sustain, if not go down. So we do have some growth. We need to capitalize on that, as you said, and hopefully with some growth we can spread out that cost to everybody and keep everybody from paying more taxes out of their pocket. So
we're about out of time, and that's a great place to stop, is the optimistic view from you, and I'll echo that there really is an opportunity to lower our share as people, the taxes, and it's called growth. And there's a number of choices in front of our community every day. There's businesses deciding whether to add one more employee. Somebody's going to open up that old building. All of those things And people have a lot of control of that. A lot of it happens in the room right behind us, in the Planning and Zoning Commission and in the City Council, or at your Planning and Zoning at Department in for rural county decisions. The good news is I think we have a perspective from everybody in alignment today. The majority of people in alignment that says we can grow and we should grow. Let's grow smart, but let's grow.
Yeah, and I think to complement that, those groups that you just described all work very well together. And it's a group effort instead of a we-they effort, as it has been oftentimes in the past. So again, you know, we're going to grow together, we're going to succeed together, we're going to fail together if we don't do it right.
Well, Brad Homman, I thank you for coming in. It's always good to see you as a person. Good to see you wearing that gorilla red. The boys will be playing Friday night, I'm sure.
Yes, yep.
Okay, all right.
Season opener.
Season opener. Folks, we appreciate your watching today. We want you to be a part of growth in Dickinson County, and you can do so in many ways. You can look up Brad down at the county, or you can find me at Eagle. I'm Dennis Weiss. This is Brad Homman. Have a great day.